I had already read the book when I heard about the project. I read it in my book club. There's only 2 of us in the book club.
Book club? You never mentioned the book club.
There's 3 of us. I mean, 2 other people besides myself.
Sounds great.
Yes, I had read it and loved it, and then when I heard Sarah was directing it, I emailed her kind of incessantly. I wasn't like shocked by it. Isn't that horrible?
No, I wasn't shocked by it either. Yeah. I was really like, it's very traumatizing, like especially the article. It's a New York Times article, isn't it, that was written about it. When you read it, it's terrible. But then what's extraordinary is Miriam's book takes that story and turns it into sort of a fable, and Sarah kind of lent on that even more. Like, even though it is inspired by real events, it is very much a kind of story and a sort of parable, and the journey that these women go on. The script, I felt, was like nothing else I'd ever read, in the sense that it was a story from beginning to end. There wasn't a lot of kind of separate scenes with stage direction. It wasn't filled out like a lot of movies is, where it basically tells you what to think and feel when you read it. There was so much space in it, it felt, but also there was a lot of dialogue. And I even said to Sarah, I said, you know, this reads to me like a play. And she's really brave, I think, that she basically knew that you couldn't take the theoretical argument and also the personal argument of these women, like the conversation that they're having. You couldn't try and strip it back and make it just visual. It wouldn't work.
She really put so much time and energy into like who was, not just in that hayloft in terms of the actors, but like every crew member, every head of department. Like it was, she cultivated like such a group of people that made it possible for us to make this thing in a certain way that I hadn't worked with a female director in a long time. I think it had been like 10 years or something, and it was interesting, like just the subtle difference in energy.
She's just a force. Like, I don't know, when you see what she does as a producer, you're like, oh, that's like beyond what a producer does.
Yeah.
And she really, really cares about what's being said in film. And the same with Fran, you know, like Fran is the queen of Hollywood. But she really wants to make a difference. And I think to have both of them, who've been part of making some of the most important films in the last 10 years, like be our leaders alongside Sarah.
When I first saw it, it was quite an intense experience because we don't know each other's lines, but we know what it was like.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah, we do. We basically know the whole script back to front and remember that there were so many takes of each person's performance that you lived through.
Yeah.
And you felt, and you like kind of had to deal with it, like it was such a felt experience making this film. And then you watch it and you go, yes, okay, yeah, I remember that. So
I had the same experience as you though, because you had said to me, like, when you watched it, a lot of times when you make a film, then you see it, you're like, that's not what that was like. But watching it, I was like, I felt the same way watching you guys as I did in real life.
Yeah, which I found quite like, because it took you right back there.
Yeah.
And we only finished it a year ago, so it's quite a thing. But then when we watched it the second time, I watched it the second time all together. Rooney saw it for the first time we were all together. Basically, it was just like, like the whole from beginning to end. It was like a really like special experience to all watch it together. And they're debating whether they should stay and fight, stay and do nothing, or whether they should leave. And all of those 3 decisions are huge. They can seem like quite small, like, oh, just get up and go. But it's like they're massive, massive decisions these women are trying to make. And they've got the responsibility for the entire colony of deciding. And that's a big thing. And they've got to do a lot of talking about it. And that's what we do in the film. We talk about it a lot. It's basically about a group of people who've been oppressed. And I think there are lots of identifying factors in the whole film. And all of the characters are very distinct and have different approaches to the world that they live in. And I think that there are lots of moments where people from different communities or people who feel oppressed, or maybe not oppressed and never have been and never thought they were, can watch this film and identify a thought, a feeling, you know, that would kind of resonate with them. I hope that's the aim.
Also, we discuss it in the film of like, it's an education, you know, but that men and women have both learned and have been learning from elders or people at the top tier who've kind of, so that they can hold their position, have been like trickling down this education, which is kind of And it's both men and women who need to unlearn things so they can learn something new.
Yeah, it's not about blame or retribution. I was never that young when I started acting, but even when I was in my 20s and I'd started acting, if there had been a therapist on set, or even a director like Sarah who said, do you feel comfortable talking about this? How do you feel about this? There's room and space for you to have a little moment to yourself. I mean, I can't even imagine what my career would have been like if I'd been given that. Yeah, my life.
Amazing. But like as well, like, it's their first. Like, and Liv, she'd kind of came into because she'd made a short film herself, so she's like really interested in directing. And Sarah would like kind of talk to her about directing and film and stuff like that, and a lot of the crew would too.
And she was actually doing the drawing.
Yeah.
Doing
Every day,
drawing,
all day drawing.
What an amazing first job.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
That was the
Oh,
best
I had
costume
hearing
fitting
aids.
I've ever had in my life.
You had a
actually.
fancy one though. You
had
had
espadrilles.
espadrilles.
No, yes.
Only
I
was
did
the
have
most
better
fashionable
shoes.
Mennonite.
But I've never had a costume fitting in my life where I didn't go to it and then like go home and like hate myself or cry or just be like just leave angry and quiet. Like it was I would like went try. I was like, yeah, it was so
Easy.
liberating to
Keisha
have.
was amazing.
Just like a uniform. We all had the same thing. We weren't supposed to look particularly attractive, and it was just like, this is what I'm wearing, and that's it. I loved it.
Do you remember like on our first week, it was like thunder, and
Yes.
lightning,
Oh my
and we were in
gosh.
the studio
4
where you
a.m.
could hear like the hail on the roof, and we were like, how are we going to film with
Corrugated
like,
iron roof.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It wasn't.
I
It
actually
wasn't a
thought-
proper sound stage. It was in like a stadium. So, yeah, when it rained and you could hear it everywhere.
I thought it was kind of interesting that like, we couldn't get out of there like for weeks. We had nothing but to kind of
We
shuffle
tried to break out.
into the attic, talk
Shuffle.
for like non-stop. There was no getting away from like the conversation we had to have.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, life imitated art. I felt.